Welcome to Telltale Audio, where stories come alive through words and art. Today, we're diving into Dust and Determination, a tale of rivalry and friendship in the desert. As you listen to the story, you'll watch the scene unfold through my pen. Let's begin our journey with Rocky the Roadrunner and Wiley the Coyote. Dust and Determination by Justin Simon. In the vast, sun-baked expanse of the desert, where towering saguaro cacti stood as sentinels and the horizon shimmered with heat, a thrilling chase unfolded. The cracked asphalt of an old desert highway stretched before us, its faded yellow lines a stark contrast to the surrounding sandy landscape. I, Rocky the swift roadrunner, darted across the scorching pavement, my blue-feathered head bobbing as I scanned for the best escape route. Behind me, Wiley, a determined coyote with muscles rippling under his sleek gray fur, pursued with relentless energy. The midday sun beat down mercilessly, turning the highway into a ribboning mirage. I could feel the heat radiating through my scaly feet with each rapid step. The air was thick with the acrid scent of dust and creosote, a smell that always accompanied our wild chases. Glancing back, I saw Wiley gaining ground, his sharp teeth bared in a determined grin. His yellow eyes were focused intently on me, reflecting a mix of frustration and excitement. I could almost hear the thoughts racing through his mind, calculating his next move, plotting how to finally catch his elusive prey. Gotta lose him, I muttered to myself, my voice nearly drowned out by the rhythmic slap of my feet on the pavement and the wind rushing past my ears. The road stretched endlessly ahead, flanked by a diverse array of cacti. Squat barrel cacti and majestic saguaros dotted the landscape, their green forms a stark contrast to the golden sand. As we raced along the highway, we passed familiar landmarks, ancient rock formations, dried-up riverbeds, and the layered silhouettes of distant mountains painted in shades of purple and blue. The monotony of the road was occasionally broken by faded signs, hinting at long-forgotten destinations. Wiley's paws pounded the asphalt behind me, the unfamiliar surface seeming to both help and hinder him. The smooth road allowed him to run faster, but the heat searing through his paw pads was clearly taking its toll. I could hear his labored breathing, a mix of exertion and determination. I realized that this highway might be leading us somewhere new, perhaps to one of those human settlements we occasionally encountered. The thought both excited and worried me. New terrain meant new opportunities to outsmart Wiley, but it also meant unknown dangers. As we continued our relentless pace, I couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of our desert home, even in the midst of this intense pursuit. The vivid blue sky, dotted with wispy clouds, seemed to stretch into infinity. The harsh landscape, with its unforgiving terrain and resilient flora, was a testament to the perseverance of life, much like Wiley's unwavering chase and my own determination to stay free. With a burst of speed, I pulled slightly ahead, my long legs a blur against the sun-bleached asphalt. But I knew Wiley wouldn't give up easily. Our dance of predator and prey continued, a timeless struggle playing out against the backdrop of the ever-changing, yet somehow eternal, desert. As we raced along the highway, I couldn't help but ponder the peculiar nature of my pursuer. You see, Wiley wasn't just any coyote, he was utterly convinced that he was Wile E. Coyote, the infamous character from the old Roadrunner cartoons. This wasn't just a passing fancy or a joke. Wiley genuinely believed he was the cartoon coyote brought to life. I glanced back, seeing determination etched on his gray-furred face. His yellow eyes gleamed with the familiar mix of frustration and excitement, but there was something else there too, a hint of the super genius he often claimed to be. As we rounded a bend in the road, I spotted something that made me skid to a halt, my clawed feet leaving marks on the hot asphalt. There, perched precariously on the edge of a cliff overlooking our highway, was an enormous contraption. It looked like a massive slingshot, complete with a rubber band and a coyote-sized seat. Wiley grinned triumphantly as he caught up to me. Beep beep, I squawked nervously, watching as he scampered up to his creation. Aha! Prepare to meet your doom, Roadrunner, Wiley exclaimed, his voice filled with cartoon-like bravado. He quickly strapped himself into the seat, muttering something about trajectory and wind resistance. I watched in a mix of amusement and concern as Wiley launched himself into the air. The contraption worked almost too well. He soared high above me, missing me by a wide margin, and sailed towards a distant sand dune. I winced as I heard the muffled thud of his landing. As dust settled around the impact site, I cautiously approached. Wiley emerged from the sand, looking dazed but undeterred. He shook off the sand, his fur now a mix of gray and tan, and immediately began sketching out plans for his next scheme in the dirt. I couldn't help but admire his persistence, even if it was fueled by this strange delusion. His dedication to the role was impressive, from the elaborate traps he built, always labeled with Acme in bold letters, to the way he mimicked the determined but often hapless demeanor of his animated counterpart. As Wiley grumbled about faulty equipment and began to plot his return to the road, I took off again, my feet pattering on the sun-baked asphalt. Our chase would resume soon enough, I knew, but now it would be tinged with the surreal humor of Wiley's cartoon-inspired antics. The desert stretched out before us, a canvas for our endless game of cat and mouse, or rather, coyote and roadrunner. And as the sun beat down on the highway, I realized that Wiley's unusual conviction added an unpredictable and often hilarious dimension to our rivalry. It made our chases a unique mix of genuine peril and slapstick comedy, turning the harsh desert landscape into a real-life cartoon playground. With a beep-beep of anticipation, I sped off down the highway, eager to see what outlandish scheme my deluded but determined pursuer would come up with next. When not engaged in our thrilling chases, life in the desert took on a different rhythm. For me, Rocky, early mornings were spent exploring the vast expanse of our arid home. I loved discovering new hideouts, from shallow caves and rocky outcrops to hollowed-out saguaro cacti. Each new discovery felt like a potential lifesaver for future pursuits. I often spent time with Benny the burrowing owl, listening to his tales of desert lore and ancient spirits. These quiet moments of friendship reminded me of the importance of community in our harsh environment. Wiley, despite his cartoon-inspired delusions, had a life beyond our chases too. In the cool evenings, he'd return to his pack, sharing stories of his latest inventions and near misses. His siblings, Mia and Leo, would listen with a mix of amusement and concern, offering advice that Wiley would invariably ignore in favor of his Acme solutions. Our daily interactions, filled with both conflict and unexpected moments of cooperation, taught us valuable lessons. 1. Perseverance. Wiley's unwavering determination, despite countless failures, showed the power of never giving up. Even though his methods were often misguided, his persistence was admirable. 2. Adaptability. The desert's ever-changing conditions forced both of us to be flexible. Whether facing a sudden sandstorm or a flash flood, we learned to think on our feet and adapt to new challenges. 3. Resourcefulness. With limited resources in our harsh environment, we both became masters of making do with what we had. Wiley's elaborate contraptions, while often ineffective, showcased incredible creativity. 4. Respect for nature. Our survival depended on understanding and respecting the desert ecosystem. We learned to read the signs of approaching weather changes and to use the landscape to our advantage without damaging it. 5. The importance of wit. Our encounters proved time and again that brains often trumped brawn. Quick thinking and cleverness were often more valuable than pure speed or strength. 6. Unintended consequences. Wiley's backfiring plans often served as comic reminders that our actions can have unexpected results, teaching us to think through our decisions carefully. 7. The value of rivalry. Surprisingly, our constant competition pushed both of us to become better versions of ourselves, faster, smarter, and more resilient. 8. Coexistence. Despite being predator and prey, we learned to share the same habitat. This taught us about the delicate balance of ecosystems and the importance of each creature's role. 9. The power of perception. Wiley's unshakable belief in his cartoon identity showed how our perceptions shape our reality, for better or worse. 10. Finding joy in the journey. Although Wiley never caught me, and I never permanently escaped him, we both found excitement and purpose in our ongoing chase. There were times when the harsh realities of desert life forced us to set aside our rivalry. During a particularly severe drought, Wiley and I worked together to help the younger animals find water. When a group of human poachers threatened our community, we combined our skills to drive them away. These moments of cooperation reminded us that sometimes, working together is the best way to overcome challenges, even if we're rivals. As seasons changed and years passed, our chase evolved into something more than just predator and prey. It became a dance, a game, and sometimes even a form of communication. We developed an unspoken understanding, a grudging respect that transcended our natural roles. In the end, the greatest lesson we learned was about the complexity of relationships. Our rivalry had forged a unique bond between us, proving that even the most unlikely connections can bring meaning and growth to our lives. And so, as the sun set each evening, painting the desert sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, Wiley and I would retire to our respective homes, ready to rest, reflect, and prepare for another day of chases, challenges, and unexpected adventures in our shared desert world. The day of the grand finale dawned like any other in the desert, with the sun creeping over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Little did Wiley and I know that this day would test our skills, wit, and the very nature of our relationship like never before. As I emerged from my hiding spot, ready for our daily chase, an ominous wind began to pick up. In the distance, I could see a massive wall of sand approaching. A sandstorm of epic proportions was heading our way. This was no ordinary storm, it was the kind of tempest that could reshape the desert itself. Wiley appeared on a nearby ridge, his gray fur ruffling in the increasing wind. For a moment, our eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between us. Today's chase would be different. It wasn't about predator and prey anymore, it was about survival. As the storm bore down on us, we found ourselves running side by side, our usual roles forgotten in the face of this greater threat. The wind howled around us, picking up speed and force with each passing minute. Sand stung our eyes and filled our mouths as we desperately sought shelter. Wiley, drawing on his cartoon-inspired ingenuity, quickly constructed a makeshift shelter using debris and his Acme-branded supplies. I used my knowledge of the terrain to guide us to a more stable location, away from areas prone to flash flooding. As we huddled in our shelter, the world outside became a swirling chaos of sand and wind. In this forced proximity, we began to see each other in a new light. Wiley's creativity and determination, usually directed at catching me, now focused on our mutual survival. My speed and knowledge of the desert, typically used for escape, became tools for our joint safety. Hours passed, feeling like days. We shared what little food and water we had, our usual animosity replaced by a spirit of cooperation. Wiley regaled me with tales of his cartoon adventures, his eyes gleaming with a mix of madness and genius. I found myself sharing stories of my own explorations, revealing secret hideouts I'd never dreamed of disclosing to my pursuer. As the storm raged on, we faced one challenge after another. A flash flood threatened to wash away our shelter, forcing us to work together to divert the water. Dangerous debris carried by the wind became projectiles we had to dodge and deflect. Each crisis brought us closer, our teamwork becoming more seamless with each passing hour. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the storm began to subside. As the last of the sand settled and the wind died down, Wiley and I emerged from our shelter, blinking in the harsh sunlight of a new day. The landscape around us had been transformed. Familiar landmarks were buried, new dunes had formed, and the very shape of our desert home had changed. We stood side by side, surveying this new world, realizing that we too had been transformed by our shared ordeal. In that moment, we both understood that while we would always be rivals, there was now a deep respect and understanding between us. Our endless chase had forged an unbreakable bond, one that transcended the simple roles of predator and prey. As we parted ways, heading off to explore our changed environment, there was a new glint in Wiley's eye and a spring in my step. We knew that tomorrow would bring another chase, another adventure, but it would never be quite the same. We had seen each other at our most vulnerable and our strongest, and that knowledge would forever color our interactions. The grand finale hadn't ended our story, instead, it had opened a new chapter. One where our chase was more than just a game of cat and mouse, but a dance of mutual respect, a test of wits between worthy adversaries, and sometimes, when the situation called for it, a partnership that could weather any storm. As I watched Wiley disappear over a newly formed dune, already muttering about his next brilliant plan, I couldn't help but let out a soft beep of anticipation. Whatever tomorrow brought, I knew it would be an adventure worth experiencing, with a rival who had become something more a friend, of sorts, in this vast and unpredictable desert we called home. Thanks for joining us on Telltale Audio 4 Dust and Determination. If you enjoyed watching this story come to life, please like and subscribe for more animal adventures. Which desert dwellers should star in our next tale? Leave your suggestions in the comments below. Until next time, keep your tails wagging and your imaginations running wild. This is Telltale Audio, signing off.